When you're standing on a rooftop with a drone that promises professional-grade footage, the first question that pops into most people's heads is whether the price tag actually translates into usable results, or if you're just paying for a lot of hype. I get that hesitation. You've probably read a handful of glossy ads and maybe watched a couple of cinematic shots that look like they were shot on a Hollywood set. The real test is whether the machine lives up to those expectations when you're out in the field, juggling wind, battery life, and the need to get a clean shot in less than ideal light. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The DJI Mavic 4 Pro Creator Combo is positioned as the next step up from the Mavic 3 line, bundling a 512GB storage module, the new RC Pro 2 controller, and a tri-camera setup that includes a 100MP Hasselblad sensor, dual telephoto lenses, and a 360 Infinity Gimbal. The claim is clear: give creators the flexibility to capture everything from ultra-high-resolution stills to 6K HDR video, with a flight time that stretches past the 45-minute mark most competitors can't match. So, does it deliver, and who will actually benefit from that bundle? Let's start with the core camera system because that's where most buyers split. The 100MP main sensor is a massive leap over the 20MP and 48MP offerings you see in other consumer drones. In practical terms, that resolution shines when you're doing aerial mapping, large-scale real estate shoots, or any scenario where you need to crop heavily without losing detail. I ran a quick test over a historic downtown district, pulling a 6K video and then extracting a 20-second clip to zoom in 3 on a FOD. The details held up, brick patterns and signage remained crisp, something you'd struggle to get from a 48MP sensor without noticeable softness. The dual tele lenses add a useful layer of flexibility. One is a 70mm equivalent, the other sits around 150mm. In daylight, the tele lenses performed exactly as you'd expect, tight framing without sacrificing the smooth, 3-axis stabilization that DJI's Infinity Gimbal provides. For a wildlife photographer who wanted to capture a hawk perched on a distant tree, the 150mm lens let me get a clean, steady shot without having to hover too close and risk disturbing the bird. However, the tele lenses do have a narrower aperture, so low-light performance drops noticeably. If you're planning to shoot dusk scenes, the main 100MP sensor with its larger aperture will be your workhorse. The tele lenses will start to introduce noise and a loss of sharpness. Autofocus on the Mavic 4 Pro feels solid. In the field, you'll often be moving the drone around and trying to lock focus on a subject that's constantly shifting relative to the lens. The system's phase detect AF locks within a second and stays locked even when you change direction quickly. That reliability is a real time saver for event videographers who can't afford to pause and refocus manually. The downside is that the menu for toggling AF modes is nested a few layers deep in the controller's UI. The RC Pro 2 screen is bright and rotatable, which helps, but you still need to spend a couple of minutes navigating the settings before you're comfortable changing focus behavior on the fly. It's not a deal breaker, but it adds a small friction point for people who want a truly plug-and-play experience. Low-light behavior is where the safe night flights claim gets tested. DJI says the drone can operate down to 0.1 lux thanks to omnidirectional obstacle sensing that still works in near darkness. In practice, the obstacle sensors do keep the drone from colliding with hidden poles at dusk, but the camera's ISO ceiling means you'll see grain if you try to push 6K video at full frame rates after sunset. I found the sweet spot to be shooting 4K at 30 frames per second with a slight reduction in shutter speed, which gave clean footage without too much noise. For creators whose primary focus is nighttime cityscapes, you might need to bring an external light source or accept a lower resolution. Battery confidence is one of the strongest selling points. DJI advertises up to 51 minutes of flight time, and under calm conditions with moderate throttle use, I was able to get just over 48 minutes before the battery prompted a return. That extra few minutes translate into less downtime between missions, which is a tangible productivity boost for commercial operators who need to cover large areas in a single day. The downside is the added weight of the 512GB storage module and the larger controller, which nudges the takeoff weight close to the regulatory ceiling in some regions. If you're flying in a country with strict weight limits for hobbyist licenses, you'll need to check local regulations before you bring the full combo. Now, who should actually consider buying this kit? First, professional creators, real estate firms, construction surveyors, high-end wedding videographers who can put the 100MP sensor and extended flight time to work and recoup the cost through higher value deliverables. The bundled 512GB storage also means you won't need to swap cards midday, which is a convenience.